Hey guys, it's Jamie, and for my project I did what makes a good teacher from a student's point of view, and I went around Ball State and asked some of the friends that I've met questions pertaining to the readings that we've done, just to get a better understanding of what teachers were like from their schools. So let's get started. So on page 13 of our textbook it says, and although literature propelled most of us into the field, a person may have also had a strong effect. So I asked everyone what their favorite teacher was and why it was them.
I loved a teacher named Mr. Jeffers because he was always super interactive in classes and he just got along with everybody.
My favorite teacher in high school was probably my English teacher because she was always super nice and helped us with all of the questions that we had.
My favorite teacher was my English teacher because she was very understanding.
One of my teachers I loved was my second grade teacher because you could tell she built a relationship with each and one of her students. She had fun nicknames for all of us, and she was always doing like hands-on activities, and I enjoyed that a lot.
A teacher I loved is my pre-calc teacher from my junior year, Miss McLaughlin, and I loved her because she showed her emotions in class, and that made me feel closer to her as a person and therefore made her a better teacher to me.
My favorite teacher was my English teacher sophomore year because she was super creative.
A teacher that I loved was my 5th grade teacher. Her name was Mrs. Struve. I used to be a D student from kindergarten to 4th grade, and until I entered her class, she helped me get all A's, and she was just really good at individual work, so she helped me all the time one-on-one, and she even stayed with me after school when I was at after school care, and she helped me do my homework. And she was really good with working with me because I had ADHD, so she knew how to work with that because her son also had ADHD.
My favorite teacher was my high school government teacher because she was always really positive and had a great attitude.
On page 18 we had a pretty big section on teacher ego, having it and losing it, and what a healthy ego means, and having too big of an ego. So for my second question I asked everyone if teacher ego has ever affected them while they're in the classroom, and if the teacher had too big of an ego, a healthy ego, or just how it affected them in general.
A teacher having a smaller ego has affected me more because they let students walk all over them, and the class is too easy and I learned nothing from it in the end.
My Spanish teacher was very strict and she was not flexible with like life coming in the way of work. Like it was always work before life.
My 5th grade teacher had a big ego and was pretty stubborn, and you could tell she would pick favorites based off of like if you'd made a mistake or not, which made it harder to learn in her classroom because I would be scared to like mess up more.
My math teacher, my sophomore year of high school, was very particular, and he had to have everything done his way, and you were never right even if you proved him wrong.
I had a math teacher my freshman year who had teacher ego, and I was already really bad at math, so it was really hard to focus in her class and also be able to ask her questions.
My middle school choir teacher had a really big ego and it was really hard to get stuff done because she didn't let anything slide.
Yes, I have had a problem with teacher ego. In middle school, one of my math teachers was very kind of full of himself, and he really wasn't good at explaining things to us, and he got frustrated when we didn't understand because he was just very stubborn.
My history teacher had a huge ego and she only saw things her way.
So going a little bit more into teacher ego, we learned to talk less and listen more to develop a healthier ego, and also different parts of the book just mention that we should discuss and not teach more of a lecture, but like discuss with the students and talk with them, not at them. So I asked the kids that I interviewed what they prefer, if they prefer the lecture or discussion based, and I thought their answers were pretty interesting.
I prefer discussion-based classes.
I personally would rather have a discussion-based class.
I prefer a mix of lecture and discussion based, with most of the days being lecture based, but having a day in the middle of the week saying having discussions with everybody in the class and it being open.
I prefer discussion-based classes because I love to hear everyone's different views and opinions.
I prefer discussion-based.
For me, it depends with lectures and discussions. With lectures, I like to take really organized notes, which helps me a lot, but with discussions, I tend to be able to understand more and have to pay more attention, so I get the subject more.
I definitely prefer discussion-based classes because I like to hear everyone's thoughts and opinions. I prefer discussion-based classes just because I think it's more beneficial to learning about things when you get to bounce ideas off of one another.
Page 52 starts a discussion of characteristics of good teachers. So I asked for my next question what they think some characteristics of good teachers may be.
Being open-minded and empathetic.
Open-mindedness and caring.
When they're very interactive with students and when they're open to listen to new ideas.
Open-minded and caring.
Consistent, outgoing, and positive.
Creative.
Interactive and personable.
Characteristics of a good teacher are being energetic and influential.
Going into that, page 52 and 53 read off some of the most important characteristics of good teachers. They say that they like people, young people in particular, that they're flexible, that they draw appropriate conclusions from classroom observation, that they listen actively and attentively to their students, that they have a good sense of humor, and that they have a good sense of intellectual curiosity. For my next question, I asked them to pick out their most important teacher characteristic out of these 6 and their least important that they found.
I think being flexible is the most important, but like liking people is not important because you don't have to like someone to like work with them.
Most important is teachers listening to their students, and least important is teachers having a sense of humor.
So the most important to me would be that they don't blame students, because I feel like teachers that blame students don't have good relationships with them. And the least important to me would having intellectual curiosity, because a lot of students don't really want to go beyond and ask a lot of the extra questions and don't have the intellectual curiosity like the teacher does.
The most important teacher characteristic that I think is when teachers listen attentively to their students and consider what they have to say. And I think the least important would just be having a good sense of humor, because I can pretty much pay attention if the teacher is nice and willing to bounce back their thoughts.
I think the most important one to rank, the top one would be have a sense of intellectual curiosity and encourage one in their students, and then the least important probably is to have a sense of humor.
The most important characteristic is that they're flexible, and the least important is that they like people.
Okay, I think the most important one is have a sense of intellectual curiosity and encourage one of their students.
For me, when a teacher has humor, it's more easy for me to pay attention and stay focused on the lesson. But what doesn't really matter so much to me is their curiosity level.
In my opinion, the most important teacher quality is flexibility, and the least important is intellectual curiosity.
And for my last question, just to wrap it up, I asked everyone that I interviewed if they ever would want to become teachers, and a lot of them related it to teachers that they've had before as to their reason if they would ever become teachers or not.
I do not want to be a teacher because having my dad as a teacher, I get to hear about the negative sides of dealing with students all day.
I definitely would not want to be a teacher because teachers in the past have talked very negatively about the profession, and that's not something I want to be involved in.
I would say that no, I don't think I would ever want to be a teacher. It's not because of the kids, because I really enjoy working with kids and spending time with them. But I would say I feel like teachers just made out their job to be something that isn't interesting to me as far as like the salary goes and pay and like treatment. So yeah, it's definitely not something that I'm interested in.
I wouldn't want to be a teacher just because I've experienced a lot of teachers being walked all over by their students, and I wouldn't want to experience that because I know I'd put myself in that situation.
I would become a teacher. My mom inspires me because she has been a second grade teacher for like all my life, and the relationship she built with her kids is cool to see because she still keeps in touch with like those who are like out of college these days, and we'll run into them and like they love and appreciate her.
I would really like to become a teacher at some point because I've seen teachers really like reach out and help other people reach their full potential, and I'd like to help other people in any way that I can.
I am actually majoring in elementary education, so yes, I do want to be a teacher. My 5th grade teacher actually inspired me because I did cadet teaching with her when I was a senior at Carmel High School, and she really was my guide to everything and helped me figure out what I wanted to do with my life.
I would not want to be a teacher because it does not follow my interests.
I have considered becoming a teacher in the past just because I have loved all the teachers I've had throughout my life, and they've had very big impacts on me, but I don't think I would ever become a teacher just because of the way that I've heard teachers talk about the pay and the salary and how that affects their lives.
Thank you guys so much for watching my video. The next few slides are just going to be things that I've taken away from doing this project that I thought were pretty cool and interesting.
Bye.